Last time, on The Savior's Sister, Layla began enacting her one and only plan besides killing everyone. She would have one of her sisters, the hot one, pretend to be her. When her sister did an excellent job, Layla became extremely jealous. But that's alright, because she met a depressive sad boy named Tobias.
Hey everyone, we're back for another chapter. There are ferrets loose, so those are the noises you hear. Ferrets, they're having a fucking party. I don't control them. No one controls them. They don't even control them. There were a couple of things before I start this chapter that I've been thinking about lately, and I just want to talk about as possible, like, bad themes that are happening in this. Bad tropes. One is the infantilization of the non-neurotypical character, Pippa. Again, we don't know what exactly is going on with her. I've heard that the author has said that it is autism. She doesn't really act like any autistic people that I have known, but that doesn't mean that she couldn't be autistic. However, she is very, very infantilized by Layla, and really the author too. Layla just really treats her like a child, and so does the author with that whole, you know, she's got the mentality of a child thing, which I can tell you autistic people do not like. They do not like it when you say, he's 18, but he's like 5 in his mind. That's deeply insulting. There are so many facets to autism, you can't just say that. But again, it's not actually in the book that she's autistic. For all we know, she was dropped in her head as a baby and she has brain damage. It could be anything. But Layla treats her like a child. She calls her duckling, so that's not great. But then I was thinking about Layla's other mothers in the mirror and how useless they are. But I was thinking about one of them is Delphi's mom, who was Layla's nurse, and she has brown skin. And I'm like, wait, is that the mammy trope? Where a black woman, a black slave, probably, we don't know that she was paid, is raising a white girl and is happy about it even? Like, that is a very harmful trope that we need to not be seeing. I don't know if this quite counts, but I just, like, when I realized I was like, ooh, that's not great. So those are the two things I was thinking about. And I'm sure that Jenna would vehemently deny both of those things, but you kind of don't get to decide what tropes you've accidentally used if you accidentally use them. Like, a black person might read this and be like, that is totally the mammy trope, and I am not on board with it. I'm not black, so I can't say 100%, but I am friends with and have multiple autistic people in my family, so I can speak to that a little bit more. And I can tell you that this is not a good portrayal of autism, but again, it doesn't specifically say in the book that that's what it is, probably because in this world they don't have the language for it. Anyone who is writing a neurodivergent person, you cannot just say, oh, they're like 5 years old in their head and write them that way.
That's not how it works. That's not how any of this works.
Alright, let's get on to chapter 7. We have ranted enough. This one is called The Marked One. Trying to frame my fucking shot as usual. What else is new? You know what would be a better plan for Layla's dad? If rather than wanting her dead, he just was trying to find a way to control her. Because we don't know what happens if you kill the Savior. Because the last one he killed just happened to give birth to the new Savior immediately. So, as they would say in Shakespearean, Layla was from her mother's womb untimely ripped. So what happens when a savior is killed? We don't know, because there's always been another one. So Brontes is taking a really big risk deciding that he wants Layla dead. He's already going about it in a really terrible way, but we've already talked about that and how nobody here has a good plan. Wouldn't it be smarter if he was trying to control her and bend her to his whims? She is the God Queen. Wouldn't you want to use that to for your own devices? Mightn't he try to ingratiate himself to Layla, like, even though he might hate it? But no, he's just like, no, I want her dead because I want only the power for myself. Because again, he doesn't have a good plan. Asher's back.
I was just not into that conversation.
Asher's one thing. He has a thing. He keeps calling her Your Holiness, and she keeps correcting him and saying, call me Layla. He's hot and he does that. What a great, well-rounded character we have on our hands. I think he's actually supposed to kind of be that bro who, like, calls everyone milady, and then they're like, I have a name, and he's like, oh, I was just trying to be respectful. Layla is kind of a bitch to him, though. Probably because he slept with Cosima. How dare he? Everyone in this fucking palace is hooking up, but how dare they? We have the name meaning thing again. Stop trying to make the name meaning thing happen. Tobias is goodness and she is darkness, and I just... Like I mentioned in my review of The Savior's Champion, you will often find in my books the Easter egg of characters' names meaning something. Woo! But I don't point it out to you on the page. I let you be like, hey, I wonder if that character's name means something, and I let you look it up, and maybe it does. And you're like, oh, cool. Layla knows that 2 of the guys are gay, or at least bi, which, again, begs the question, why are there gay guys in this? Why would you get someone into a tournament who doesn't want the Savior? You'd think they'd vet them a bit better than that. They made sure they had big dicks, but they did not ensure that all of these guys were interested in women. We're learning that Kaleo is probably clinically a psychopath. They're talking about it, of course they don't have the word psychopath, but they're basically like somebody who can't feel empathy. And then of course, oh, you guys know how much it annoyed me in the first book that Tobias was the only man of any value, and we're getting it again. Kind, intelligent, Delphi said, one of the few men who treated me as flesh and blood as opposed to a hole for his cock. Certainly no killer he fears for his life. So, yeah, Tobias is just the best one, and don't you forget it. I don't know why Layla doesn't care at all about what's happening in each of the challenges either. Like, we don't even, she doesn't even wonder what are they doing. We just get her going down to the labyrinth, the camp afterward, and she's like, oh, I'm here to heal all your injured guys. If I was her, I'd be a little bit curious about what they were doing. Layla's gonna go kill another senator. But Delphi's like, this one's not old, and he might actually fight back, because so far Layla has only killed old men. I still think with her teleportation ability, she could kill just about anybody. Nobody's gonna be ready for a teleporting girl with a knife. You just can't train for that. Okay, she could teleport to a fucking forest? I'm assuming it must still be within the walls of the palace, but how much land do these people fucking have? She could easily, like, slip away somewhere and no one would know where she was, and she could probably escape, but fuck it, nah. Layla has decided to assassinate this guy immediately, and he is outside, as we established, and I didn't realize, but it's fucking daytime. So she tries to be stealthy, but obviously she is fucking glowing. No points for strategy, Layla. Wait till he's asleep. Why do you gotta kill him right the fuck now? Layla wants this guy's rings. I guess he has something valuable in the rings that he's wearing, and she was like, just give me your rings. And he's like, bye. And he took off. And like, why can't you just wait until he takes these rings off and goes to sleep? Maybe there's something in the rings that he's gonna hand off before she gets a chance. See, she could just teleport right in front of him, and she keeps doing that. So take out your sword, and one of those times you teleport in front of him, just straight into his stomach with it. Yeah, no, instead she's gonna be like swinging the sword, and he dodges. It just appear in front of him and stab. Oh, apparently he knows that she's been murdering the others, because he's like, you won't kill me like the others. So apparently, yes, I was correct. Her dad knows that she's murdering his people, and he just doesn't give a fuck. Conveniently, Layla has some sword training, because why wouldn't she? His fear feeds her fury. She's terrifying. She's the villain. She injures him, of course, because of course she's better than this trained swordsman. She's this teeny tiny little girl, but that's fine. And he's like, okay, I yield. And she says, I didn't come here for mercy. I came here for your rings. Honestly, I don't think they could kill Layla. She's like, when am I to be killed? You can't be. You're too special. So I'm not worried, and will never be worried. When you make your character so special, the reader isn't afraid for them, and you want your reader to be afraid for them. That's one of the reasons why my characters are usually like humans, like average people who could die and be injured. I know I talk a lot about my own writing comparing it to this, but because I know my own writing the best, it's easy to compare. But I also prefer reading characters who aren't super special. It's not even a challenge. Like, she just won the sword fight. He hasn't marked her once. She has slashed him to ribbons. She's a tiny girl, but of course, she is just better. She's just better. He is 1000% right. So this is supposed to be, I think, a glorious moment for her, but she's got him severely injured. backed up against a fountain. He's completely at her mercy, and he says, "What kind of creature are you?" And she said, "I am your queen." And then he says, and he is not wrong, "You are damned. My blood will never wash clean from your hands. You are forever marked. You are a murderer." Correct, sir. But we are supposed to like Layla? I think Layla is the one who may be a psychopath. Nothing against people in real life who are psychopaths, because not all of them turn out to be killers, obviously. She seems to have absolutely no empathy. Then she stabs him and kicks him into a fountain. And then she realizes, oh yeah, I'm trying to be stealthy, even though very clearly, like, he basically told her that they know that she's killing these guys. But she's like, oh shit, he's in the open, and also now his blood's all up in this fountain. Mistakes were made. Layla finds it impossible to have empathy for any of the other men besides Tobias. Another one is dead, and she's just like, well, he wasn't Tobias, so. But Toby is in trouble. I think this is after the apothecary one, where he gets poisoned. Orion is being the MVP. Obviously, in the previous book, he only really becomes a character near the end when Tobias needs him to be his therapist. But now we're getting more Orion, and he's just being very... Honestly, Layla should be attracted to Orion, because he's the one who is demonstrably being good and kind and strong. Layla is scolding Flynn, our boy Flynn, because Flynn's like, oh, Tobias drank a lot of the poison wine, and she's like, well, he's grieving, and Flynn's like, yeah, that's why I encouraged him to keep drinking wine. And then Layla's scolding him for encouraging Tobias to drink the wine, but like, as I recall, in that chapter, Tobias had already forgotten about his dead friend and was in fact drinking the wine because he didn't want to listen to the apothecary and he thought this whole thing was stupid. Trying to make everything Flynn's fault around here. Flynn did nothing. We also have this running thing of the physician coming over and mansplaining to Layla how to be a healer. And I get what's trying to be done with it, but it's really, like, it's supposed to be obnoxious, but I don't think it's supposed to be obnoxious in a way where I'm like, not this plot point again. It should be like, oh, not this fucker again, but it's more like, we're still doing this. Layla is talking to her power as though it is separate from her, and I'm curious if this is supposed to be like her communicating with the god that she sort of was born from. Like, she finishes with, "That is my will and order." So I don't know who she's ordering around, but I wish it was more clear. Then the physician comes back again, so we can have even more of this physician mansplains her how to do her job situation. We get it. We get it. And that's the end of that chapter. Tobias wakes up with his head in her lap, like the poor baby boy that he is. Poor Tobias, he doesn't know what he's getting himself into. That poor kid. I'll see you for the next chapter, guys. People who are thriving the best in this apocalypse, internet comedians. If you're from Wisconsin and you don't follow the Manitowoc Minute, what are you even doing with yourself? Even from outside of Wisconsin, follow it anyway. Alright, we have chapter 8, The Artist, where we will maybe figure out why the fuck Layla actually likes Toby, because so far he's just been sad and almost dead. I know, that's what attracts me to a man, too. Oh yeah, and I think, didn't Layla just murder someone in a fountain? She's got Tobias's head in her lap. Ooh, baby. In case we didn't get that the physician was bad because he just keeps mansplaining to Layla how to do her job, Layla just straight up tells us. Though, to be fair, if she didn't have magic, she would be completely, like, useless and clueless as a healer as well. Really, Jane? So honestly, yeah, he's obnoxious and mansplaining, but also she doesn't have any expertise either, so. Layla warns him that the challenges are only gonna get worse. Not really. Like, on a level of dangerousness, they kind of stay on the same tier. Not nearly enough people die. They're going over the names again, because as we know, they are named Darkness and Goodness, respectively. Now, some of you who are very into Julian lore, which I know there must be like one of you, has read my other book, Phoenix, wherein the main character does get her name explained. And you might be going, Julian, you said that you never have characters explain their names in books, but you did in this one. You are correct. But in my mild defense, I was trying to do something with names in that book. If you read it, you notice that everybody has nicknames. Baby Julian was trying to look at themes of like identity and teenagers sort of choosing their own identity and a girl coming into her identity and where names fit into that. So I was attempting to do something. I'm not going to say that I succeeded, but that's what I was doing. And I seriously don't think that any such nonsense is happening in this book. I think that Jenna just thinks she's very clever. Oh my gosh, we still get that. We don't want to miss out on that line where Tobias is like ableist to his own sister, where she asks if his sister is alive and he says from the waist up. Wouldn't want to miss out on that crucial line. Also, I don't know if they'll mention it later, but in my first read along, I avoided saying what this book called, what Tobias called his sister's like little mobility cart that she gets later, like a little cart that she's able to push herself or be pushed around in. He called it a cripple cart. And I avoided that because I didn't want to have to say the words cripple cart. I still don't love that, but I wanted you to know that Tobias is really ableist towards his sister, and it's gross. See, Flynn is not a bad person. He just checked that Tobias was okay, and when he found out that he was, he cheered. Why do we hate Flynn? Why does Flynn gotta be a bad guy? Layla doesn't like the Laurels. She says they're dehumanizing, so she calls everyone by their names. Is that an attempt to walk back the fact that every single character was given 2 names, which like exacerbated the problem that there are too many characters? Tobias has turned on his full charm. He is being very charming. So we leave her and Tobias being all sickeningly adorable together, and then we get a time skip where she's laying out all of the secret messages she found in Dead Guy's rings. Apparently, Brontes thought it would be a good idea to write down all of his plans on tiny slips of paper and put them into the rings of one of his guys. I got nothing. What the fuck? Was he just pulling like ideas out of a hat? Was this planning Mad Libs? Like why would you do that, Brontes? Why would you do that? Because he's the worst at planning. That's why. Nobody here has a good plan. But now Layla knows that he plans to murder her on her wedding night, or at least that's what the slips of paper say. One of his assassins has to win the tournament. Marry Layla and kill her on her wedding night? Sir, is that what you've got for me, Brontes?
Well, my days of not taking you seriously are certainly coming to a middle.
Brontes is going to wait until after Layla is married off officially, which will make him no longer the sovereign, which will make it when he kills her, somehow people will be less suspicious because he won't become the sovereign again. But Kaleo will become the sovereign and will almost certainly just abdicate power back to Brontes. So why would people be less suspicious? Layla, just wait for these guys to just like trip and stab themselves with their own daggers. Okay, maybe this is a fake plan because Delphi says it's really obtuse, or are we missing something? So maybe this isn't the real plan and it was just left for Layla to find. Gosh, I hope so. I'm really upset that this isn't the tagline for this book. Win, marry, murder. Why are we shaming Cosima for getting her freak on? Cosima comes in. I just spent the night with the Adonis. He gave me an amazing blowjob. And the other two are like, ew, ew, but it's the Adonis. And I'm like, he gave her an amazing blowjob. Why, like, are you jealous? Like, why are you so mad? She's only allowed to get blowjobs from men that her sisters approve of, alright? Why is Asher a character?
Oh, yeah, you guys, you have a visitor. She's here to see you in the booth number 1, with the earrings.
And then she fucking just leaves him, so apparently he's completely given up on following her places. Layla was gonna go down into the labyrinth, and then Pippa came in crying, implying that Pippa was potentially sexually assaulted by one of the men in the labyrinth, which of course, absolutely hate. Layla goes charging down there, and we find out that her basement dad was here and like attacked somebody, and I don't remember that at all from the previous book. Was there something in the challenge that he was part of and I just don't remember it? I don't know why everyone is so bitchy to their healer. Yes, I know these guys are bad men. Hashtag bad men. Your healer's gonna put you back together. So just stop being bad men for like 10 minutes? By the way, I don't know where she got the needle and thread, but people in movies and books don't seem to understand that you don't just usually stitch up wounds with a regular old needle and thread. You probably can, but when you stitch a wound, a special curved needle is actually what you want to use. And you go one stitch at a time, so it's not like sewing up a shirt. One stitch, tie it off. One stitch, tie it off. Yeah, now the guy she's stitching up is grabbing her ass. And Tobias is saving her. It's not a romance book unless a guy saves a woman from sexual assault. Oh wait, did you know that I wrote an entire romance book where that never happens? I did. I did do that. So, you know, you don't need it. It's a tired trope. Fucking throw it away. This chapter's so long. Why is it, wow. Why is it so long? Layla's doing her healer thing, and Flynn is talking about how attractive he finds Cosima, and he's not even being that creepy about it, comparatively to everyone else. He's being pretty tame. And then someone else says, Flynn, the healer is present. I'm sure she doesn't want to hear us gush about another woman. Why would she care? Are we to assume that anytime a woman is in the room, you shouldn't talk about other women? We got everybody being like, ugh, Flynn, oh, we hate Flynn. Flynn's so annoying. And I'm like, why we gotta be like this for Flynn? You know, not every guy can be the absolute picture of masculinity, and that's fine. They're all sitting around playing the matching game, and Layla thinks Tobias is very smart because he got a match. So can 5-year-olds. Layla tells Flynn that she has it on good authority that the Savior doesn't think of any other woman as beneath her, which is a blatant lie. Tobias is very, like, charming and flirty in this. And again, nothing like the Tobias I remember. Because he flirts in the right way, the way that she likes, the Layla-approved flirting. So for the last several pages, which I have not been bothering to recount, Layla and Tobias have been out. They went out of the labyrinth and they're looking at the stars, and they're just being gross and adorable together. Then she asks if he's okay because Milo died only a few days ago. And I'm just waiting for Tobias to be like, who? But now Tobias is deeply affected by the death of that guy that I wasn't even convinced he particularly liked. I kind of don't like that Layla always interprets for us what the colors mean. Like, Tobias's colors have changed from black to an indigo blue, and then we are immediately informed that means sadness. But honestly, just let us figure that out from context clues. And finally, boy, that chapter was a slog. We're on to chapter 9, but man, if you're not into the Tobias-Layla romance, just skip that chapter, to be honest with you. Especially the end part where they're all just sitting out in the moonlight talking together. Nothing of consequence is lost without that, so. Anyway, I'll see you for the next chapter.
Well, hello, traveler. Why don't you sit right down over there and I'll tell you about some of the best patrons in the whole world, like Patrick, Anne Sophie, Callison, Ray, Artemis, Shelby, Zaire, Jesper, Irene, Scribbling Cat, Savvy, Jenny, Amanda, Lisa, and Lennox. Why, I bet you've never heard of a better group of patrons in your whole life.
Kevin, hi, can you answer the phone, please?
I can't. It's in the fish tank.
No, the one on the desk that's ringing. That one.
Oh, that one.
Yep.
What's this place called again?
Conductors of the Metaphysical Examination.
Got it. Conductors of metamucils and stuff.